Good evening, children. So today we'll continue with what we have left out yesterday. So today we'll start and discuss about the vertical movements and the horizontal movements. Now, vertical movement, that means up and down, okay, that is called as vertical, straight. So what happens? A part of the earth surface either rises up or sinks down. That is the vertical movement. Now, what happens actually? There will be a crack, and below that big strata of rock, sometimes there may be some underground water that holds the earth or the part of the block. And then suddenly, if that underground water disappears, then what happens? The area where there was water, it becomes hollow, and as a result, that huge rock, a part of the rock or block, sinks down. That is horizontal movement, and can be the reason for the formation of rift valley. And sometimes what happens? A portion of the earth may also rise up because of the pressure from below, because inside the earth there is a lot of pressure and forces because of the hot molten rocks that is in the core. So in fact, our even own southern plateau was formed in this manner. A part of it was pushed up without any folding or twisting. The next movement is the horizontal movement, that is east-west, the direction. So horizontal movement usually take place where the earth crust is generally weak. So if the force of compression, if I remember what I told you, force of compression, that is moving away from each other. So if the force of compression is weak, then it may result in the formation of simple arc. And in case the compression force is strong, then compression is not moving away. Compression means coming towards each other, closer to each other. And if this compression is weak, then it can result in the formation of arc. Arc, not semicircle, but smaller than semicircle. And if the compression force is very strong, then these arc comes more, then it can create fold. Like if you take two books and then push these two books against each other, then you'll see the place where these two books comes and collide, it will rise up. What will happen? It will rise up, and that's an example of fold and how the mountains are created. Fold mountains are created. The next is folding of the earth. So folding of earth's horizontal strata, that is the rock or the bed or the crust, leads to formation of the fold mountains. So we have several fold mountains in the world. One is in our own very country, that is the Himalayas. Then we have the Alps of the Europe. We have the Rockies, the Andes. So these are some fold mountains in and across the world. So what happens when two plates comes and collide with each other because of the conversional or compressional force? So they rise up, and this leads to the formation of fold mountain. And the Himalayas are the example of a fold mountain. Then the Rockies of North America, the Andes of South America, and the Alps of Europe, they are also an example of fold mountains. Now, fold mountains have a series of ranges. Now, this means that they are not just one mountain, but there will be plenty of mountain from one end to the other. For example, in India, from Jammu and Kashmir up to Arunachal Pradesh. It even extends more further from Jammu and Kashmir towards Afghanistan, the Hindu Kush. They are also a part of the Himalayas. So you see, such a long range of mountains. So that's why we call them as series of ranges, and they run parallel to the main range. And in these mountain ranges, you will find peaks. Like we have the highest peak in the world, the Mount Everest. You also find low valleys in the mountain ranges. And since the mountain ranges are steep and uneven, the rivers flowing through them are very swift. So that's why most of the river that originates from the mountain are very swift flowing rivers. But these rivers, by the time they reach the plain, the force or the current becomes quite low. So to understand better, I'll be sending you the link of how the fold mountains are created, and I shall also send you the link in the group about the vertical and the horizontal movement, where you can have a better idea, because I'm not being able to show you in video because of some technical issues. And I hope that by watching those videos you'll understand better about vertical movement, horizontal movement, folding and all. Now the next that we'll discuss is about the fault. So we have discussed about folds or folding. Now we'll discuss about fault. So when in a large part of the earth crack appears, those cracks are called as fault line. So when crack appears, so the land or the area between the cracks submerge or goes down, and that causes the formation of rift valley. And the other two part of the crack on the left and the right, they remain on above, and since they remain flat, so they can be termed as the block mountains. And the part which goes down is known as the rift valley, and there what happens, water gets filled up and forms either lake or river. And one such example is the Dead Sea. So the Dead Sea, where you have water now, was once on top and then it went down and water filled in. In some cases, the earth's movement divides the crust into a rectangular block, and that leads to the formation of block mountain. Like when the part where the crack appears, it goes down and the top part forms the block mountain. So the west of the Rhine Valley, the Visage or the Visage mountains, these are some examples of block mountain, or the Nevada block mountain of America. Now wherever there is a fault line in the earth crust, especially, those areas are very prone to volcanic eruption. Now the ring of fire, around the coast of Africa, America, South America, this area is known as ring of fire, and that lies exactly at the end of the fault line, where the crack appears, and from those cracks hot molten lava comes out, and that's why we have plenty of active volcanoes in those places. There are also many dormant as well as active volcanoes, and some are also dead volcanoes. Now we shall learn about volcano. Now volcanoes are opening in the earth crust through which hot molten materials like lava, gas or ashes comes out with a great force to the surface of the earth. Sometimes what happens, the eruption of the hot molten lava stop, and the vent through which the central vent gets jammed. So what happens? So the new molten lava and all that wants to come out or sprout out, they get stuck. But deep beneath, more and more pressure comes into play, and in such cases they come out with a huge force and explosion. And one such volcanic eruption did take place in the year 1883 in the island of Krakatau, that is in Indonesia. And this volcanic eruption was so huge and violent that the entire mountain disappeared, and the noise of the explosion could be heard about 4,008 kilometers away from the place of where the volcanic eruption took place. And it took around a year for the dugout dust to settle down. So when whatever comes out, it remains in the atmosphere for a very long time. And in the place of the mountain, because the whole mountain disappeared, there was a huge pit, like a hole, and it was about 270 meter deep and 6 to 8 kilometer wide. And now, however, later on by 1930, there was once again a dense tropical forest there. Now we have a very dense forest there in Indonesia. Now, how volcanoes are created? Now, we all know that the crust, the earth top part, the crust, consists of several plates that keeps on moving. So these plates, as I've told you, they float on the asthenosphere, the molten rocks of the molten mantle area. And these molten rocks are known as magma. So when the borderline of two plates, the fault line, when two plates collide with each other, then what happens? The one which is heavy, the ocean plates is heavy, so it goes down, and that makes or creates more and more pressure in the magma area, on the metal area. And then wherever the weak part of the crust, these magma, hot molten magma, forces itself up, and this is how the volcanoes are created. Now, the volcano has several parts. The main pipe, you can say, it's called as vent, through which the magma sprout out or comes out, is known as a vent, the central vent. And the opening of the volcano, the top part from which the hot molten lava gases comes out, that is called as crater. Now, apart from the main vent, sometimes from the left and the right, small vent are created. Now, the vent, that is the opening of the volcanic mountain, in the earth surface could be in the form of a long crack also, and in such case lava comes out slowly and silently and spreads over a large area, and that can also leads to the formation of plateau, because when the lava spreads out, obviously it will be higher than the plain, and that also can create a plateau, that is known as volcanic plateau. And the rocks, materials that comes out from the lava that comes out from these volcanoes later on cool down, and they form igneous rock. Now, the volcanic eruption, what contains during the volcanic eruption, what contains the lava or the magma? So it contains gas like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen and chlorine, along with the molten rocks and all. These things contain in the magma, or comes out with the volcanic eruption. So this was about fold, fault and volcano. Next chapter, in the next class we shall learn more about landforms like intrusive landform and extrusive landform. Along with that, we'll also learn about the major volcanic belt earthquake and types of volcanoes. Thank you.